Welcome everybody, my name is Shwati and this is my Soul Reaver Warlock build. This is just continuing the fun builds before Edge of Fate, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into it. There's a lot going on with this build. I'll try to explain it as best I can just because there's so many different elements. The primary gameplay loop for this build is to pop your Rift, that way you can have Little Void Soul, and you will have the improved Void Soul because we're going to be using the Briarbind's gauntlets. After doing that, you'll switch typically to a weapon that has Slice. You start shooting the enemies that are going to be affected by the Void Souls, so that way you're not only severing them, but you're also weakening them. You're getting your class abilities back super fast. You're getting health because of Devour. There's a lot of survivability with this build. It's really going to be kind of hard to die.
Oh god, it's so good. So good. So good and tasty.
Let's get into the gear for this build. I'm going to start with the artifact first just because some of the choices that we're going to make here are going to affect our choices for the weapons. So we definitely want Volatile Marksman. So if you don't already have D-Stab on any of your weapons, you can just get it from this. But the boost is also definitely what's going to help us, which is Volatile Detonations grant class ability energy. Because we're popping our Rift left and right, we definitely want to get that class ability energy back as soon as possible and as quickly as possible. The other one that we're going to use is Unraveling Orbs. Picking up an Orb of Power or Tangle grants strand weapons unraveling rounds. We will be using a strand weapon in our primary slot. Apart from that, we have Beam Medic because we are going to be using Trace Rifles with this build. Rapid Trace Rifle final blows heal you and nearby allies. Powerful combatants increase the amount. I don't really know if this is super helpful or even needed just because you can also have Devour, but I think it's pretty nice to at least be able to heal your teammates if they're at least around. But if you're solo, you might not be seeing the benefits from this too much just because you already have Devour. We got Disruptor Spike. Improves the effect of Exhaust and Sever, lowering a target's damage output even further. You're going to be severing a lot with this, so being able to sever them even more is going to be very beneficial, especially for boss damage and different phases like that. We got Maligned Harvest. You're basically always going to have volatile rounds with this build, so you definitely will be wanting this so that you can do a bunch of weakening bursts all the time. Apart from that, we got the Boost, which is applying weaken provides a small void overshield. You will also get that all the time because you're going to be doing weakening bursts left and right. Now we got Horde Shuttle, damaging unravel targets with a weapon occasionally spawns a Threadling. Then we're going to be using Harsh Refraction. Trace Rifles do more damage to targets afflicted by elemental debuffs, matching their element type. This is going to be great because we're using the Strand Trace Rifle, and every time we're going to be severing them with that Strand Trace Rifle, we're going to be doing extra damage. Apart from that, we got Limit Break. Casting a super while you are critically wounded or have an elemental buff matching your super element grants a period of increased super damage. Because we're going to have Devour all the time, we have volatile rounds, all that, casting our super is going to deal increased damage, and it's pretty much just always going to be active for you. And last but not least, we have To Shreds. So this is great because you're going to be severing left and right all the time. So because of that, you're going to be unraveling them, which will give you the unraveling rounds. And then you'll be dealing extra damage because of the boost down there. Unraveling projectiles deal increased damage. These deal further increased damage to severed targets. So not only are you severing them and dealing increased damage to them, you're unraveling them and you're weakening them with your Void Soul. There's a lot of synergy going on with this build. It's crazy. You deal a lot of damage and you're going to be getting your health back left and right. Alright, let's move on to the weapons. So right here, it's a little bit, I would say, trickier just because of the way that I have this build working. Trace rifles are pretty important. and the specific trace rifles that I'm using are kind of important to the way I'm playing it. You also don't even necessarily need to go the whole trace rifle route. You could always just use a primary that might have Sever, but Sever is just like a big part of this build, so I definitely do recommend at least having a weapon that has that. So the Strand trace rifle that I'm using is an incisor with slice. You could always use the trace rifle from the new Sunder Doctrine dungeon as well. That one also comes with slice. But like I said, if you wanted to, if you don't want to go the whole trace rifle route, you could always put on some other weapon that also has slice on it. That's what at least I would recommend. For my primary, I like to use a void weapon that has destabilizing rounds. So I have this Shayura's Wrath with strategist and destabilizing rounds. There's also some gameplay footage where I'm using my grid skipper that has destab and demolitionist. So that one's a good one. I just like both of these weapons because strategist helps me get my class ability back even faster, so I'll get my rift faster, I'll be able to use it more often. And then demolitionist is great because it just helps me get my grenade back faster. Neither are 100% necessary, not even destabilizing rounds is necessary, but both will help when it's like a new season and we don't have the same artifact perks. So it's always great to have your void weapons with destabilizing rounds. And then for my heavy slot, I'm using Microcosm. That's just another weapon that goes great with the whole artifact perks for trace rifles. Plus Microcosm just does a shit ton of damage, so it's very beneficial, especially for the beefier targets and boss phases. Moving on to the armor. As stated before, the primary exotic that we're going to be using are the Briar Binds. They're the gauntlets that improve duration, damage, and durability for the Void Souls. So if you look at it, they have a longer duration. They do last a long time. I think once we pop it, I think they last for 25 seconds, which is a crazy amount. And they also gain escalating damage and durability as they defeat targets, and you can retrieve your Void Souls by interacting with them, allowing them to be redeployed. So there's some gameplay footage where you can see me even juggling 2 different Void Souls every now and then. Because you're going to be getting your rift back so fast, you can do that pretty often. You just have to worry about going and getting them again. Your Warlock might get some steps in. On the helmet we have Harmonic Siphon, so we can get orbs of power when we kill things with our void weapons. We have a Strand Siphon because we're going to be killing a lot with our Strand trace rifle, or if you're just using a Strand weapon in general for the slice. And then we have Special Ammo Finder, and I have this specifically because I use my Strand trace rifle a lot. On the gauntlets, I have firepower, so I'll be getting orbs of power with my grenades. I just have a fastball just because I had an extra energy slot, so I figured I'd just use it for that. And then I have bolstering detonation so that I can get class ability energy when I cause damage with my grenades. On the chest armor, I just have all the resistances. Again, if you like using different things, you can always put them here, but I just personally typically will use resistances just depending on the activity that I'm doing. On the boots, I have Absolution and Innervation, as well as a Strand holster. The Strand holster is more so if you're using something like what I'm doing with the Strand trace rifle, just because I want it reloading in the background. I don't really have to worry about reloading it every time I pull it out. Typically, I'm only using the Strand trace rifle for when I want to apply the severing effects, and then I put it away and typically will take out my void weapon. But again, you can use whatever you want depending on your build if you make any switches. Absolution is to reduce all ability cooldowns each time I pick up an orb of power. We do make a lot of orbs with this build, so this really helps get everything back. And Innervation reduces grenade cooldown each time you pick up an orb of power. Again, that goes with the whole getting your ability back as soon as possible, and then ability spam in general. On the bond, we have Reaper. Because we're going to be using our class ability very often, shortly after using your class ability, your next weapon final blow spawns an orb of power, so this just helps with orb generation again. We also have Powerful Attraction, again, because we're using our class ability so often. Every time we have orbs around us and we pop that rift, we're going to be picking up those orbs. And then we have a Bomber, so reduces grenade cooldown when using your class ability. So again, it's just another quick way to try and get your grenade back. Your abilities should be coming back very fast with this. As far as the stat distribution goes, of course, the main one that we want to go for is resilience. So we want to max that out just to be a little bit more tanky when we're actually going in there in the different contents. And the next one I'd recommend is discipline, so we can get our grenades back a little bit faster. Those are really the ones that I typically will go for. If you like to switch it up a little more depending on your playstyle, you can definitely try to mix it up a little bit, but resilience is always the one I will say try to max that out. Now let's go into the actual subclass itself. So I like using the Nova Bomb and typically using Vortex. As far as the abilities go, we got the Healing Rift. I like using the Scatter Grenade. I also like Vortex Grenades, but you can always pick something else if you like going a different route. This is pretty open-ended. I just feel like Scatter Grenades typically deal a lot of damage pretty quickly. As far as the aspects go, we got Feed the Void. So defeating a target with a Void ability, you can activate Devour, and then you get additional health and grenade with Devour, which is great. So our grenades come back so fast, and you've already seen in some of the gameplay that it's very hard to die. We got Child of the Old Gods. Child of the Old Gods basically makes it so that Void Soul actually flies to them, and it's pretty aggressive when it flies to the enemies that you're targeting. But when they are targeted with it, they get weakened, and you also start getting your grenade and melee energy back. You also get your class ability energy back once you defeat the targets that are being drained, which is great. Now on to the fragments. We got Echo of Starvation. Picking up a Void Breach or an Orb of Power grants Devour. That's just another way to get Devour back. And then the Void Breach is actually something that will grant you more class ability energy as well, getting you your Rift back even faster. We got Echo of Harvest. Defeating weakened targets creates an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. We got Echo of Cessation. We have Echo of Persistence, so all the Void buffs applied to you will have increased duration. So that's your Devour, your Overshield. So this is definitely helpful to keep you alive. Now we can get to the actual drip, the important part of the video, am I right? Okay, so I have the Death Singers, pretty much like the whole ornament kit from the Crota raid. I have it on everything. And the shader that I'm using is Gambit Steel, also on everything. And of course, I got a match with my Sparrow. Got a match with a ship. I'm just using a freaking asteroid because come on now, this is dope. Yeah, apart from that, thank you for watching this video. If you made it this far, I very much appreciate you. Please like, comment, subscribe, the whole YouTube thing, of course. Any feedback would be greatly appreciated about the video itself, about the build, anything like that. I'm all ears. But thank you again for watching and have a great day.